Better get my microphone on first. In recognition that we have Cable 11 here taking some shots that they want to use for the rest of the year, I'm going to open tonight's meeting with the gavel, which we never do. And they can clip that for perpetuity. And if you wanted me to do it again, I'll do it again.
That's what you mean by taking shots.
That's right. And the only other time we've used it is in the middle of disruptive meetings when we're trying to gather the attention of those disrupting us. And I'm sure that won't happen tonight. Thank you. It's 7 p.m. and I hope everyone had a good summer and a good long Labor Day weekend. And now we're back into regular time of year and hopefully a very productive fall session. I'd like to call this meeting of the Council for September 7th, 2016 to order at 7 p.m., almost exactly. And with the call to order, also a reminder to councillors that to make any declaration of conflict of interest if that should arise during the evening. And I think we can wait till we get to the issue, though I think there's one or two. And then moving to adoption of the agenda, I'll ask if there's any additions or deletions. And I'm going to suggest one rearrangement, that we take the first business item, 10.1, and move that forward under 3 or 4, so that we don't have our volunteers and board members of the community forest waiting all through the evening while we discuss rezoning. And so we'll move that after the other delegations. So 10.1 moves up to 3.2. Any other additions or omissions? Nothing from staff? Motion to adopt agenda as amended. Councillor Wright and Inkster, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Moving then to item 3, we have with us this evening Tony Greenfield from the Sunshine Coast Natural History Society regarding historical logs that emerged from the Watermark development site. And Tony, if you want to turn the microphone in front of you, just press that once or so and I'll... It's on. That's great.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to show a couple of slides. They're already there. I don't know if any of you heard about these logs from beneath the watermark, but we'll just run through that briefly. This is obviously the current watermark site. This is the action there 3 or 4 years ago when they were excavating the foundations. Everybody remember what that looks like? Mm-hmm. So here's the critical thing. As they dug down into the through the sand and gravel and into the sphagnum layer below, at about the 13 feet down level, the operators started running into a tangle of logs down there. And the people, the developer here was Wakefield, and they realized there might be something significant about these logs, the fact that they were buried 13 feet down. So they actually hucked them all into a pile and eventually hauled them down to Gibson's. Didn't really know what to do with them, but thought there might be some historical interest here. I do have some samples here, which I'll pass around in a minute. These are the logs. There's about 10 logs, all 3 or 4 meters in diameter or in length, that were cut up by Wakefield. And as you can see, they're maybe half to a meter in diameter. The assumption is that these logs are beach logs that were washed onto the beach and got stranded and eventually buried by a sphagnum bog. I'll refer back to this, but these logs have been radiocarbon dated at 4,830 years. And so going back to, say, 3,000 to 4,000 years BC, the geomorphology, sea levels and whatever around here was very dynamic, was recovering after the Ice Age. Sea levels were rising as the ice melted. Another look at the logs. So the logs have been radiocarbon 14 dated at 4,830 years, plus or minus 15 years. The people who deal with these things, there is a calibration program that you have to apply to the radiocarbon 14 date. So our experts tell us that these logs are actually 5,500 years old. 4,830 radiocarbon, 5,500 calendar age. These are obviously rare artifacts around the Strait of Georgia. They're not absolutely unique. There have been other ones found in on the Saanich Peninsula. However, given the fact that these are rare artifacts and given their great age, we think that this is a very significant artifact that should be given suitable treatment by the District of Sechelt. I should say that the reason I'm here today is because the Sunshine Coast Natural History Society are the current owners of the logs. The original developer was Wakefield. They really didn't want to do anything with them. They were happy just to pass them on. They tried to, I should also mention that this has all been cleared by the Sechelt Indian Band too. Kenzie Jessam, their archaeologist, has looked at these logs, and we agree that they're probably beach logs, that they're not actually human artifacts. And the Indian Band also have no further interest in these logs at the present time. We've also approached the watermark strata development, and they are not interested in pursuing them either. We thought that a presentation on their property, you know, in the courtyard in the middle would be an appropriate place, but at the present time they're not interested in doing that. So the Natural History Society would like to see them placed on the District of Sechelt property in front of the watermark. It would require some kind of metal crib just to keep them off the ground. And we'd be happy to come up with some kind of interpretive signage. You already have other signage down there, and we could tie into that. We, the Natural History Society, are happy to donate any log that the District of Sechelt wishes to take ownership of, either one or more. They're not actually pretty things. What's really incredible to me, maybe I can pass this around right now, but these logs that have been buried for 5,500 years, they really look like they could be any log off the present beach. There's no way of really knowing that they're 5,500 years old without carbon dating them. Can I pass this around to? Another artifact here. These are shavings from the logs, and you know, just take a little sniff. It's just like a fresh one. I should say that the reason these came to our attention was that my neighbor on Redwoods Road is a geologist from Calgary called Peter Hughes, H-E-W-S. And Peter was the guy who actually found out about these logs as they were being excavated from under the watermark. And we've been neighbors. That's how the Natural History Society comes to have ownership of these. The logs, the way we see it, one log could be presented in its entirety. It's 3 or 4 meters long with the interpretive signage. But we have a large amount of wood here. We've got 10 logs, and they could be cut into rounds, little slivers that are maybe a few centimeters thick. And then we've really got hundreds of specimens here. We've also given a couple of sections of the log to the local Woodworkers Guild, and they have actually turned these logs, and these are the bowls that they've come up with. We would like to see the district of Sechelt come up with some kind of display, but we also think that maybe some rounds in the library and various other places would be an appropriate destination for parts of these logs too. I think that's the presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. And I know that Councillor Lutz has her hand up already, so there's one question. Councillor Inkster after that. And Councillor Mueller actually was ahead of both of them because I'm supposed to use this. His light's on, so we'll start with Councillor Mueller.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just curious about the species. Do you have multiple species? Or?
We're not totally sure about that. They actually are pretty hard to ID, but this log, in my opinion, is quite obviously a Douglas fir. I have another little artifact here, and you can actually see the pitch on the log.
And then my follow-up is, so you've essentially, through some type of process, determined that these were beach logs. They're not associated with any particular geological event or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
It's interesting that a friend of mine who's actually a geomorphologist at Simon Fraser, about 20 years ago, he did some core samples in the watermark site before it actually, it was a long time before it actually became the watermark. And his core samples showed that the deposits at the bottom were 5,500 years old. And 20 years later, the logs are excavated, and lo and behold, they're 5,500 years old.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I'm pretty sure this is a Douglas fir. We may have other species there too.
Thank you, and Councillor Lutz.
How will you preserve what's come out of the ground now that it's exposed after however many years being protected?
We have no idea how that might unfold. It's possible and they might disintegrate fairly quickly, but in the meantime, you could get a wood expert. Maybe they can be treated or something. I don't really know.
And Councillor Inkster.
Thanks. I don't know how much wood you gave to the people that did the bowls, but it'd be interesting to see. It'd probably be more valuable based on the wood that they've come from. But I had another comment after you answer that, I guess.
Well, the Natural History Society have taken ownership of these logs, and we've actually incurred minor expense in moving them around twice. We're treating them as a historical interest rather than of any great value. I mean, if we'd be happy to. I'm actually really desirous of seeing something happen to these logs fairly quickly, and we may buck up the logs into sections and let the Woodworkers Guild go at it and see what they can make of it. And if they want to make a donation to the Natural History Society, we'd be very happy with that.
And second.
So the other part that, in terms of historical connection, these logs would be older, and this comparison is something made of stone that, much like these in natural occurrence, is they're older than the pyramids at Cheops. So that's the historical comparison. Very well-known man-made object, and they're actually older than those pyramids. by a couple, about 300 years.
I think it's really incredible. I mean, we, on the Sunshine Coast, I think we have a lot of geography and very little history, and here's the history.
Any other questions from council? Thanks for the presentation. It's a great idea. Embarrassed to say we don't do anything quickly, but we can try on this. I did hear you say you wanted something done quickly on this. And I think from the questions and interest in looking at the samples, you can see that council would share a general interest. The specificity of it, of course, will depend on the next budget cycle and the costs associated, and we'll have to get a staff report to give us some sense of what a presentation and the boards. I don't think it'll be extensive, but obviously there'll be some minimal costs. It could be in the $2,000 to $3,000 range, and we'll want to hear from staff about their thoughts on that. But I know you have my interest, and I agree that what we don't have here is the history, and this takes us back to a really good place to start. And there's a natural history and there's a human history, and we have to recognize both.
These are 5,500 years old. It's interesting that we do have, on the Cowrie Range, we also have the oldest known log in Canada too, or oldest known tree, an 1,836-year-old yellow cedar. So I think it would tie in quite nicely with that.
It's still living.
Sorry?
It's still living.
That is a stump, but
It is a stump, okay.
the sections of that log are displayed in various places, like the Iris Griffith Centre, for example.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so there is some context. We could start building some sense of the prehistory or the pre-European history.
I think so.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And we'll take it through to staff and we'll come back. It won't be forever, but it won't be next week. Mr. Stewart, Director of Finance.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to be a resolution from council to forward this to the Finance Economic Committee, or to have it brought forward as part of the budget deliberations in 2017.
If it comes to the committee, we'll just refer it back. So unless we can get it to staff on the way to the finance, but that's the right place for it, given that it's finance, culture, and economic development, and this is part of our culture. So we'll expect this to come back through that FCED committee, but I think it should go to staff before it comes back to us. Okay. I guess you're asking for a resolution. It makes it really clear when everything's over. Councillor Wright's willing to move the resolution that this be forwarded to staff and then come back to the FCED committee, and that's seconded by Councillor Seegers. I heard her voice saying yes, we're in favor of resolution. All those in favor, just so it's clear. Okay, thank you. And moving then to item 3.2, which is 10.1, Mr. Bondard.
Edition 2.0.
Yes.
This is your night for wood. Before I start, give you the Wood Expo brochure.
Thank you.
This is year number 2. It's bigger and better. But perhaps you can make sure that you attend. And it's all done by Ms. Harris, so she deserves the credit for all of it.
For the organizing and the brochure and everything else.
She did it all.
Okay.
I think this is Arn. Okay. You know, those old logs are probably older than Egypt. They're probably back to the Sumerian culture, so they are old. Yeah. We took a temple apart in Japan that was 800 years old, made out of yellow cedar. Everything was absolutely still fine. It was just that it was 800 years old and it was time to replace the temple. So they took apart a perfectly good temple and rebuilt it with our yellow cedar, but the wood will last a long time if it's protected and dried. So if Tony gets some sort of protective structure around it, it'll be okay. Yeah.
Good.
Anyway, second quarter. So what we have in the second quarter was basically started last year, and through the first quarter we did the logging, and the second quarter was the sales. And if you look at the numbers we gave you, was 7,500 cubic meters. We had about 870,000 of revenue, and came out with an income for the first half of about $186,000. And I know last year I was saying, be careful, we have the burn area to go after, and that is next. That'll be in the fourth quarter, we hope. And so the 186 or 186 profit, don't count on it. We'll see what happens in the with the burn area. And Dave was up there today, actually, looking at it with our marketing group and trying to figure out some of the details of how to deal with it. So, yeah. Dave has asked the ministry if we can consider this as a special case rather than part of our AAC, as I put in the notes, and we've had nothing on that yet, and that would certainly have to come from Victoria. I don't think that is a regional decision. So don't hold your breath on that one. That could take a long time to make. You've had the legacy fund, and that's for, I guess, a future discussion, but I was very pleased that Russ Jones joined us on that one. He is a major employer on the coast, and his history, when we talked to him about what he had done with Expo and through Rona's contributions, we thought he would be an absolutely perfect addition to the committee, and we were pleased to see him there. Mr. Bates, Dave Bates, Dr. Bates, is looking at the Wilson Creek and the water levels. A lot of criticism was given to us about, hurting the fish, water levels and the fish and everything. And, Mr. Bates, or Dr. Bates, has probably more history than anybody else in that part of the world. So we've asked him to look at it, and he has some data from previous years, and we are going to start a 1 year and maybe 2 or 3 years study on that one, and just make sure the fish levels, water levels and everything are reasonable. And there's nobody else that knows that better than he does. So mushroom study, as we said before, we're looking at the burn area now in terms of the regeneration that's coming from the burned area, and we will have that in the fall. There will be some public presentation at a point. We haven't decided exactly when yet. And from there, we'll see where we go. And it's going to be not just food, but there's also a medicinal component to that. So we'll see what's there and see what the value is. Had a friend in Pender, though, that picked about 40 pounds of mushrooms, and they were selling for about $25 a pound retail. So he didn't sell any. He kept them for himself. So we're there. I actually can't tell you when we're going to get into the burn area. We have not got the permits. We've applied for them. So we're just waiting for the bureaucracy to move slowly forward on that one.
Is the burn area the next cut, or?
We hope so, yes. Yeah.
So in that order, and then after that, potentially into Wilson Creek or Half Moon Bay?
Mm-hmm. Will be the rotational thing, as we said, every 3 years we go through and we do the one area, then move around to the other. So it is Wilson Creek that is planned. Hopefully we thought we'd get that done this year, but the burn area has certainly screwed that up. Certainly messed that up.
Given how long the permitting is for the burn area, are you starting the process for the Wilson Creek area now?
We've started the process. No, we've started the process, but we're dealing, I guess, with some of the engineering, some of the discussions with the band, and it's at that point there that there's nothing I can give you that's definite.
And I'm asking in part because the referrals from the Seashelf Nation in particular will be very important on those ones for all of us concerned, and we want to make sure those are rock solid as we.
Yeah, I think with the Chilcotin decision.
In case we have to weather any collective storms.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's gone from with the Chilcotin decision, it's gone from consultation to consent in a lot of ways. So we're working closely with the band, and hopefully we will have their cooperation.
Great.
Yeah. So that's
it.
exactly all I've got, really. It's been a quiet summer. Hopefully the fourth quarter is going to be a whole lot busier. So.
Thank you. There must be some questions.
I'm sure there are.
Councillor Mueller has one.
Thank you, Worship. I had a question about the logging of the burn area. Is that intended to be a net positive? Is it intended to make money or?
Well, last year when we looked at it, we didn't think it would. Because first of all, if you get any burn area, sawmills will not accept logs with burn because that goes into their chips, the charcoal, which absolutely would kill a pulp and paper operation. So a lot of mills just would absolutely refuse to do it. So we're taking an assessment of it. It may mean we take a real hit on the price, plus the fact that because you're in a danger area, be much more cautious in how you do it. So the costs are, logistically should go up. So revenue down, costs up. There are some hope that, if you can find some buyers that are willing to take the chance, may mean debarking first of all to see just how much damage is actually on. Is it just bark damage, or is it the trees have been sitting around now for 14 months? There could be, the rot beginning with the cambium layer. So.
And the reason why I ask is just why it is that this particular block or area came to the top of the priority. I know that a number of people that I've spoken in the community are curious to see that area regenerate naturally, or parts of it, and just to see what happens in a coastal burn like that. So I was just curious.
Well, I think you got to clear it out first and get rid of the danger trees and everything, because we've been trying to tell people to stay out of there. I mean, the trees are still weak. When the fire went through, it destroyed a lot of the root system. So you've seen the tree is standing straight up, and Dave's been up there, and trees have just suddenly gone thump. They've slightest bit of wind or anything. So I think from a safety point of view, let's get it logged, recover what we can, and get it replanted, because it will be replanted right away. It's not something that we wait and see.
Yeah, thank you. I just was curious about the criteria.
Okay, that's an interesting question. And Councillor Inkster.
So Glenn, the fact that you're logging the area obviously kicks in the rules regarding logging. So there's a replanting system. Obviously that before that's logged again, many of us won't be around.
True.
In that particular case, and in many other cases, are the rules fairly clear on the burn areas that if you in fact go in there and log, that the entire area, even those areas in which there's no valued timber, is to be replanted by?
Yep.
Is that the fact that there's that requirement? Will that be part of your argument and or rationale that you present to the provincial government regarding the fact that you're looking at that as a different kind of designation to look at other pieces to log as well as or instead of? Will that be part of your argument then?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
you want to keep it separate from your
Okay.
regular operations.
Okay. Because you know what I mean in terms of
Yeah.
you're required to replant, which
Oh,
is
yeah,
good.
those rules
Yeah.
will still apply.
Okay.
Yeah, we still have to get in there and, reclaim the forest, if you like.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate these quarterly reports.
Okay.
Even if they seem brief and small, but they create a connection that helps council stay on top of.
Well, I wish we had more to report, but it's been, as I said, a real quiet summer. Okay,
That's what they know. Appreciate
thank
that.
you. Yeah. Please come and see the Wood Expo.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's close by.
Saturday 17th. We can be there. So thank you, and we'll move then to the regular items on the business agenda, which are starting with the minutes of Wednesday, August 3rd, 2016. A brief public meeting, a motion to receive and adopt the minutes. Councillor Seegers, Councillor Shanks, everyone's in favor apparently. And moving then to the evening meeting of Wednesday, August 3rd, 2016. Motion to receive, Councillor Seegers and Councillor Shanks. Any errors or omissions noted? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. On the bottom of page 7, I'm not sure if speed boards are the right, that's the right terminology. I think it might be a speed bump, but I'm not.
Temporary speed boards, it's the very last line. So if speed bumps are temporary, They're probably made out of wood, I don't know. So it's a
Is it in
temporary
fact
bump.
speed boards? I've never,
Sorry, speed boards would be correct in that they're the boards that are on a trailer.
okay, thank you.
So, and they're electronic, so you can say, you know,
Okay.
speed limit 30, speed limit 50, slow down, those ones.
Okay.
You see them often on construction sites.
Thank you very much.
Velocity boards would help us, not speed bumps. Okay, how fast things are going. Any other errors or omissions noted? If not, a motion to adopt. Thank you, Councillor Seegers, Councillor Shanks. All those in favor? Any, and I'll leave that for a minute. And then minutes of Wednesday, August 24th. Motion to receive and adopt. Councillor Shanks, Councillor Seegers, all those in favor? That's carried. Any business arising from those previous minutes of council? Okay, looking for my agenda. No business arising from the minutes. Moving to item 7, which is the summary of recommendations of the Finance, 7.1, summary of recommendations from the Finance, Culture and Economic Development Committee of Wednesday, August 10th. Motion to receive. Thank you, Councillor Seegers. Any errors or omissions in that? And this is just a summary. Or any of the recommendations that need to be pulled out for separate debate? If not, can I have a motion to adopt recommendations 1 through 9? Councillor Seegers, Councillor Lutz. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. 7.2, summary of the recommendations of the Planning Community Development Committee meeting of August 31st. Again, a motion to receive. Councillor Seegers and Shanks. Any errors or omissions? Corrections? And if not, I'll move directly to a motion to ask if there are any recommendations that need to be pulled out for separate discussion. And if not, a motion to adopt, for council to adopt recommendations 1 through 16, Councillor Wright and Councillor Shanks. All those in favor? That's carried. And we move to another meeting of that day. Summary of recommendations of Public Works, Parks and Environment Committee from Wednesday, August 31st. It's a short one, a motion to receive, and a motion to adopt recommendations 1 through 3. Councillor Seegers, Councillor Lutz, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Moving forward to bylaws, and for first reading, we have a zoning amendment 8.1, which is the RTC properties. And we'll look to Aaron Thompson, Development Planner, to provide a report. So first a report to motion to receive this report. Councillor Seegers and Councillor Shanks, all those in favor? That's carried. And Mr. Thompson, it's your turn.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a brief report similar to my report given to the Planning and Community Development Committee regarding this rezoning. So the bylaw in front of you is for first reading and referral to public hearing for a comprehensive development zone. This property is located in at the corner of the Highway 101 and Shorncliffe Avenue. The proposal is to allow for a mixed form multifamily development consisting of two three-story apartments, one two-story apartment townhouse, and one six-story apartment. Yeah. So I just have a presentation prepared as well.
Okay, we can be patient and find it.
Yeah.
There we are. Nope, wrong way.
Yes. So the proposal is involving the rezoning of these three properties. Right here, of course, as you can see, Shorncliffe Avenue here and Highway 101, as well as you can see here, Snicket Park along the waterfront. So these properties are currently zoned R1 with an official community designation of special infill area number 2. And the proposed zoning is CD 37 as mentioned before. The development will consist of 48 residential units and in the forms I previously mentioned. Here's just a little bit about that special infill area number 2 designation. So it's special infill area number 2 is waterfront residential areas with potential for increased residential density and or tourist commercial specializing in commercial uses in the long term. Before considering development applications for these areas, more detailed analysis and discussion with area residents is required to establish a framework for appropriate uses, building forms, heights, and densities. And development of this area will be expected to provide high standard of design, scale appropriate to the neighborhood setting, improve public access and walkways along the waterfront, and high standard of environmental protection and rehabilitation of the shoreline. Here's the proposed layout of the development. So here, the waterfront on this side, well north is over here, and Highway 101 is located on this side. These orange buildings here are the 3-story apartments. This greenish blue is the 2-story townhouse, and this reddish color is the 6-story building located the furthest away from the ocean, closest to the highway. Here's a conceptual rendering of the property. Of course, this is all initial, and a more detailed finishing and such will be at the development permit stage. Briefly about the community amenities for this development. As the height increased to 6 stories, as per the OCPD policies, 30% of the lot will be publicly accessible space, which includes, in what we've negotiated with the applicant, is that the waterfront will be added to the existing Snicket Park, extending Snicket Park along the frontage of these properties, as well as some other publicly accessible open space, which will be secured via covenant on the properties, including some planned landscaped area towards the rear of the properties. For the density increase, there isn't too much of a density increase with this property. So there is what we're recommending is a cultural recreational facility in the form of improvements to this waterfront pathway, this Snicket Park extension, as well as sidewalk on the highway frontage along both this property and continuing down to Camden Beach access, as well as improvements to the Shorncliffe, the Shorncliffe Avenue, similar to what's been done at Ocean Avenue and those other oceanfront cul-de-sacs along the foreshore here. So again, here's just a preliminary landscaping plan. You can see what we've been in discussion about is this accessible pathway continuing from Snicket Park down to here. There's also potential for a pathway here, though we're still in discussion about that, as there is some steeper slopes right around here. And then this is the rear landscaped area where we are, which will also be one of the areas publicly accessible. So the recommendation is that council give this bylaw first reading and refer it to public hearing, and that prior to second reading of zoning amendment, that updated referral be sent to the Sunshine Coast Regional District. And that was mostly just as they actually have decreased number of units from when we originally sent out the referrals. So they will, the Sunshine Coast will need to reevaluate the water requirements. And that there was also another recommendation made by the Planning Committee, Development Committee, that additional public consultation be done on this project, as it is special infill area number 2. And we are going to be looking at developing what that will look like with the applicant. And I believe the council, the motion was to have it prior to public hearing and second reading. So getting to recommendation number 4, that prior to final adoption of the zoning amendment bylaw, that the following conditions be met: that an update to the geotechnical assessment be completed for the final site layout. We have an initial one, but we will need one for the actual final site layout. That a tree protection plan be completed and implemented. That a development permit to receive council support in principle. Traffic impact study be completed. And that the cultural or recreational community amenity, what we were talking about with Snicket Park and those other improvements, is satisfactory to council, and that the applicant enter into a servicing agreement for any required on-site and off-site works as identified by engineering staff.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure there's a few questions for those of us who weren't at the Planning Committee. Councillor Inkster.
Thank you. Aaron, if you go back to the first slide that you show, I guess maybe it's the second one, there's a picture there, that one. So the front piece is the Snicket Park improvements. The right-hand side, I guess, is the road that's Ocean?
This is Shorncliffe.
Shorncliffe, sorry. And so then what is the road in behind? And the road in behind that?
So this road here,
yes,
behind the buildings, that would be Highway 101.
Okay, so that is Highway 101, because it just strangely, it doesn't, I guess it continues, but it doesn't look as big as it is. Okay.
It is only a conceptual rendering,
Sure.
so.
Sure, so then this is then the concept of the housing that may occur in behind it then as well, once this is triggered, eh? Okay.
Yes, it's what the architect put in there, but
Okay.
yeah,
Just,
that's not part of this development.
yeah, might send the wrong message to some people, but what's going on with my property? Okay, so how many feet is the back 6-story building from the road, the highway then, the back end of it? Do you know that?
Let's see. I believe I have it here in this drawing. I believe it's 35 feet. Yeah, 35 feet. 15 foot and a 20 foot, I believe.
So it's only 35 feet from the edge of the building to the side of the highway?
Yeah, from the edge of the property to this point here. You can kind of see these setback lines.
I can, yeah. And what are those setback lines an indication of?
They were just put in by the architect, just kind of showing how far it was set back.
And those are an indication of, is that 10 meters each of those, or?
Well, I believe that one reads 15 feet and that one reads 20 feet.
Oh, okay.
I don't have the
hard to
actual
see
drawing in
that.
front of me, so it's hard to see.
Yeah, it looks like 17 and 20, okay. Okay. And can you go back to the previous one then, if possible? So there'll be improvements on Shorncliffe as part of the development as well then?
Mm-hmm.
Because they'll be accessed off of Shorncliffe, which is, okay.
Yes. Yeah, the main access will be off Shorncliffe, and there will be essentially emergency also onto the highway. Yeah, there's also a traffic study that the Ministry of Transportation has requested. So that will
Okay.
also look at that.
And they've decided to go with a flat roof? Not anything peaked because of the problem with the height, or no, just flat roofs?
Yeah, it's in the DP, so it could change. It's hard to say at this point if they want to have the roofs peak or not.
Okay.
Director of Development Planning Services, before we get to Councillor Mueller.
Your Worship, just in terms of the aesthetics of the building, so what you're looking at is an artistic early rendering. So it may or may not look like that as a final development application, DP application, development permit application. So I would treat that as literally massing type of drawings, because the balconies, the roof lines may or may not look like that. Since this is a very early zoning stage, I would almost disregard the drawings apart from helping you visualize what the height might look like.
Thank you. And Councillor Mueller.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was wondering if you could point out the areas, the 30% of the property that will be publicly accessible space.
So yeah, we've been really focusing here on the waterfront. So it's what this line here is showing is the 15 meters back from the waterfront. So that's the development permit area. So we recommend that they focus development outside of there, as well as shown on the landscaping plan here. There will be an additional area here, and so that will be primarily where a lot of the major focus of the area will be. There's also potential for this access path down here and other access through.
Is there intended to be landscaping or any type of public features in the back area as well?
Yes.
There is, okay. And then my other question was about process. In the recommendations here that the development permit receive council support in principle. Now we've got a number of these going out for zoning in conjunction with a development permit, and we haven't yet to complete one, so I'm just curious when we're expecting that.
The development permit to be completed or the application to be received?
Well, we're talking about final adoption of zoning, so I'm just curious about the time frame on that.
Your Worship, so typically the development permit application is applied to after the third reading is received. So usually that process can commence a bit earlier than that, just to save some time. So sometimes the applicants could apply. They could apply in theory right now, but usually the applicants would wait till second or third reading is received. At that point, we would hold the zoning or rezoning application after the third reading prior to adoption until the development permit process is finished, and then the adoption of the rezoning application would be granted at that point.
So then in relation to some of the other ones, just for example, that are at third reading, that's the process they're going through now?
That's correct. So
and if there are going to be large-scale changes as a result of the development permit, that happens at fourth reading and we begin the process again, is that correct? If there's large changes?
There could be some changes, but typically the zoning if you look at in terms of the process itself, the zoning process identifies the density, the heights, the setbacks. So the development permit, generally deals with the look and the feel of the building, and that's what's being, the form of the character. So the roof lines really isn't something that's addressed at the zoning process. The height would be. So the zoning bylaw would specify the maximum height. The roof line would have to be below that maximum height. Whether that roof line is flat, for example, or whatever, that's really up to is to be determined as part of the development permit process.
Right, okay, thanks, that answers my questions.
And Councillor Inkster.
So it's good that both of you are chiming in on this in terms of the overall look, how it moves forward. A couple of questions I have. Will you be able to, or will you produce any kind of visual document that shows these buildings, how they fit into the shoreline as it looks from out of Seashell, in terms of the other buildings that have went up along the seashore more recently? We need to get away from the walls that have occurred further down, and we've gone to the buildings with pieces in between, so we have viewscapes. Will you be able to put that in the context of those with any of the, visual reproductions we can do with computer work? And as you answer that, I just wanted to check on the drawings, just to double check. The parking in the large building will be underground, I'm assuming. The two front buildings will have parking on the outside two buildings will be covered, I'm assuming. But then there'll be parking for the middle building? Or is that parking for the middle building and behind, as is indicated there? So where will the parking be for each of these?
For this building, the parking's on the first floor of it.
First floor? Okay, is it parking that will be, it will be covered and or protected so that it won't be, as an example of parking that's happened in other apartment buildings in Seashell where you can see into it, so it will be covered?
I didn't include all the renderings that the architect did, but based on your questions, those are available. We do have one that shows what it will look like from the ocean. But for the brevity of my presentation, I didn't include all the renderings produced. So it does show both that ocean view as well as other angles apart from this. I chose this one as it shows a nice overview of what it is, and that it is, of course, at just the zoning stage.
So,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, and Andre will speak to that.
Okay, yeah.
Let's let Andre speak to development permit again.
Sorry, Your Worship. So yeah, again, because we're dealing with zoning at this point.
Yeah.
So let's assume the zoning goes through the second reading and this property is sold,
Yes.
right? None of this, right? Like somebody can else purchase this property and a lot of these drawings could be totally ignored. So just keep in mind that really we're talking about the density, the heights, the setbacks, the community amenity contribution, but within that, whether it's concrete, wood, whether the parking is underground, above ground, all of that would be is part of the development permit process. And because we haven't got there, that would be outlined, showcase, outlined, and those conditions would be coming to council and be shared with the community as well.
Yeah, I understand that. It's discussions about form and character will come in future, but it's just these are interesting buildings. They could end up on the front page of the newspaper, and it would just mislead people as to what we're discussing. So I'm glad that you've clarified that, and in asking these questions, I'm just sending you the signal that as you go forward, that it would be nice to have parking that's unseen. So, yeah. So, as part of the questioning, I just want to put that forward. So we'll see going forward.
Thank you, and Councillor Wright, and I'll put myself on the list at some point.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Are these units intended to be for rent, or are they going to be condos that are going to be into a strata?
The applicant has said strata, so.
And just one comment. I'm surprised you didn't get something back from the fire department, in particular regarding the 6-story building, but that's interesting.
Hasn't gone out yet.
Well, it says it has.
Watermark said that, didn't it?
Yeah.
They
don't have a problem with 6 stories. No. They have to have certain things that.
One quick question, how many units?
48.
I couldn't add that. I couldn't find the exact 48 units. That's great. And I'm sure we're way too early to ask for price points, but I just want to say it's really nice to see a development come forward from the developer that does not require an OCP amendment. So whoever's responsible for that, thank you. That goes a long way to building forward movement on these. And any others from council? And so let's look at the recommendations that we have in front of us. First, somebody to move the second recommendation, which is to be forwarded to council for consideration of first reading. Councillor Seegers, thank you. Sorry, another, before we get to that. Yeah.
Sorry, if we refer back to page 25, this is the recommendations put forward from committee. It indicates that we recommended that after first reading, but prior to public hearing, staff bring forward from the developer plans for a detailed analysis and discussion with area residents, given the development is in a special infill area number 2.
Yes.
So that would need to impact this number 2, because this is just saying, give it first reading and forward to public hearing. So we need to insert that inside of there somewhere so that it's prior to public hearing.
Yes, and that, thank you for that. because I did circle the note on page 431 that said they recommended this and they didn't specify when. So that's to happen before public hearing.
Yes.
So let's amend and thank you for stopping us before we got it on the floor.
And then I'll make that motion.
So the zoning amendment bylaw number 25274 be forwarded to council for consideration of first reading, referral for additional public consultation as recommended by the committee, and then referral to public hearing for lots 3, 4, and 5, block 2, district lot 1331. Councillor Seeger makes that motion. Councillor Shanks seconds it. Is it clear enough for staff? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you for catching that. And item 3, or recommendation 3, is that prior to second reading, it be referred again to the SCRD. Moved by Councillor Lutz and Shanks. Any discussion of that? And that's because of a change in the water use or potential water use, number of units?
Number of units have been reduced.
Okay. All those in favor? And that's carried. And item 4, which refers to prior to final adoption, and the following conditions. An update to the geotech assessment, tree protection plan, development permit, where we'll get into real depth discussions of form and character and how it sits on the lot, and the use of view corridors in other areas, traffic impact study, and the applicant entering into a servicing agreement. Moved by Councillor C. And one. Yeah, it's easier to do it now before we amend it. So, Councillor.
Actually, the recommendations up on the screen are slightly different. There's an E up there that is different than what we have in our package.
As identified by engineering staff.
No, E up there, cultural or recreational community amenity is satisfactory to council,
see.
which
We've
is
got an
not
F.
in ours here.
I don't know.
So I'll move the recommendations as presented on the screen.
So the written package doesn't have the reference to the cultural amenity, and the one on the screen does. I suspect you want the one on the screen?
Yes.
It's broader.
Yes.
This is more room. We can always cut it back. It's easier to cut it back. So as projected, recommendation number 4, and again moved by Councillor Seegers and Councillor Lutz. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Aaron, for taking us through that, and for councillors for paying attention, and again, for those bringing it forward for development to keep us in the OCP. It's just so much better for community support. Moving to, we actually have the bylaw in front of us, which means we should do first reading. So page 50, bylaw number 25274, 2016, CD 39, not 37, CD 39, RTC Properties Limited, which is a bylaw to amend District of Sechelt zoning bylaw number 25, 1987, by rezoning a property in the downtown Sechelt neighborhood from R1, a single-family residential zone, to a new comprehensive development zone 39 in support of a 5-building multifamily residential zone, read and moved for first time by Councillor Wright and Councillor Seegers. All those in favor? Thank you. First reading is done. Item 8.2, which is a zoning amendment with reference to direct disposal site, Lot M. And thank you, Councillor Shanks, Councillor Seegers. All those in favor? And we'll move it back to Mr. Thompson, Development Planner, for his brief report. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as you mentioned, this is a rezoning application by Direct Disposal for their properties located on Sechelt Inlet Road. So it is 3 properties just north of the Seychelles Indian government, located off the highway, located off the inlet road, as seen here. 1 larger property and 2 smaller properties. The current zonings of these properties are I3 and R2, and with a OCP designation of business/industry. And the proposed zoning is I6 and I3. The purpose behind this application is to do a lot line adjustment, and which currently cannot be done due to the minimum lot size of the I3 zone, which is 1.75 hectares. As well as this will bring existing uses into conformance on the site. So here, as you can see, the current zoning, the larger parcel and this 1 smaller parcel here at the south are the existing I3 zones, while this one here in the middle is R2. The proposal with also the lot line adjustment shown here is for this larger parcel to remain I3, and then these 2 are smaller parcels that will be adjusted to meet this configuration as shown in red will be the I6 parcels. Here's a breakdown of the differences between the I3 and I6 zone. They are quite similar. The I3 zone has the much larger minimum lot size, however, of 1.75 hectares, while the I6 zone is only 2,000 square meters for minimum lot size, which will allow for their proposed lot line adjustment. So in the I3 zone, you can see that they allow light industry, building supply, transportation, warehousing, accessory, retail and wholesale, machine and repair shop, office, restaurant, marina, veterinary hospital, aquaculture processing, retail and service of used cars and trucks, auto wrecking yards, processing of forest wooden products, 1 dwelling unit for a caretaker, funeral parlor, crematorium, and medical marijuana production, subject to conditions. While the I6 zone has those similar uses without marina and auto wrecking yards, but also allows for fitness center. So the recommendations are that this bylaw be given first reading, and that final adoption of this bylaw is subject to council support in principle of a development permit.
Thank you very much. Can we assume that the lot line adjustment is to allow for the sale of the property?
They are planning on constructing an additional office on the property, and the current location where they're planning to have that would cross a lot line.
Any further questions? Councillor Seegers?
Thank you. Comment on the bottom of page 58. The information back from the East Purpose Bay Community Association. They're objecting to some of the proposed uses of the I6 zone. And when we talked about this at committee, staff recommended going forward to public hearing without indicating these be in there, and that they come back at the next, after public hearing. So I just wanted to point that out so council's aware. Thanks.
So we can assume at the public hearing to hear some concern about the broad uses in I6 and then amend it if necessary, at that point, if necessary. Okay. Could you go back to the first aerial photograph?
This one?
No, the aerial, the actual satellite. Do you happen to know where the heron rookery is?
That's non-public information where the exact location is, but it is within.
Is it on that photograph?
I'm not. I don't actually even know.
Okay.
It is information that the Seychelles band has that is proprietary for them. So
and I wanted to make sure it was protected as well. So
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. I don't need to know either.
Yeah.
Herons are important in Seychelles. Symbolic. So two recommendations, and if we can move to that, if there's no further discussions from council. We have two recommendations. Could I have somebody move both second and third recommendations? Councillor Seegers, Councillor Lutz. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. And that also leads us to 8.2A, which is the bylaw and first reading. So bylaw number 25275, 2016, in brackets, direct disposal. A bylaw to amend District of Sechelt zoning bylaw number 25, 1987 by rezoning 3 properties in the East Porpoise Bay neighborhood from RR2 and I3 to I3 and I6. Moved for first reading by Councillor Seegers, Councillor Wright. All those in favor? And first reading is carried unanimously. 8.3 is another rezoning application. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Shanks. All those in favor? And Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So again, a rezoning application for Clayton Family Lands for Phase 2B to Phases 2E of the Trail Base Estates subdivision. So this is the this is the large district lot that this subdivision is continuing off of. You can see the existing Phase 1 down towards the south, the Clayton Park, the proposed Westbrook facility location at Phase 2A is immediately north of Clayton Park. And phases 2B to 2E are north of phase 2A. So it's essentially everything north of approximately that line up to approximately here. And as I'll show in future drawings. So the current zoning of the property is RR1 with an OCP destination of residential, and the proposed zone is R1, which is consistent with the OCP. The applicant also does have current other applications with the district, including the application for rezoning of phase 2A, the application for rezoning of the Westbrook facility, and another more recent rezoning application further south. They also have a subdivision application for phase 2A, as well as a subdivision application for phases 2B to 2E. So here is a survey plan showing the boundaries of this phase. You can see here Clayton Avenue, Compass Lane, Clayton Park here, and then these 4 blocks up here, these are the various phases of 2B, 2C, 2D, and 2E. The recommendations are that this bylaw be given first reading and referral to public hearing, and that prior to final adoption of the bylaw, that a tree protection plan be completed in accordance with the Environmental Management Protection Bylaw. And I just noticed the mistake on this slide that it shouldn't say committee there. That was an error. Thank you.
Thank you. And questions, Councillor Mueller first.
I noticed on the slide that Phase 2E includes Tyler Road as part of it, and I'm just curious at what stage will we be anticipating the construction of the Tyler Road extension?
Currently, there is a traffic study being conducted for both this property as well as the Spain development, and our engineering department is reviewing that. And I believe it's waiting for Ministry of Transportation comment as well, and that will have more specific timelines.
can I ask the question of how many units on this one as well?
I believe it's approximately 50. Of course, what you're looking for here in the R1 zone is that the minimum lot size is 500 square meters. I believe this, the total area of this is approximately, I think it's almost 5 hectares. So without my report directly in front of me, it's I'm trying to take off memory, but yeah, you're mostly looking at just that minimum lot size, but
It could
it
vary,
could
but
change at the
a
time of
rough-
subdivision.
No, I'm just trying to get a rough number here, both in terms of DCC stimulus and our historical averages. And, pardon me, but I'm going to have to refer to the urban systems report and keeping track of the 98 that we've got to first reading today, which pretty much do our annual intake, so we can slow down. No, I have another question, and it's actually to council and to senior staff. In terms of the role of local government and council, we see tonight, no, there's no question that this first reading flurry tonight is stimulated by the DCCs, and it could have been more gradual under other circumstances, but it's coming forward. But it speaks to the fact that there are a lot of projects on the books and moving forward in CSHOT right now. Not all of them with strong fundamentals in terms of historical growth averages and intake with the current ferry and transportation system. Now, if there's a highway or another way to get here, it might change. Which leads anyone with a sound mind to suspect that of these many projects, some of them are going to fall away over time. And that leads me to wonder if local government has a role to play in the orderly unfolding of the economy. And I think of that because of the disruption and what economists might call creative destruction that occurs when anyone goes bankrupt. We had a major construction firm go bankrupt here within 3 years, and the repercussions are still being felt. And if major developments get forward certain stages, people start lining up behind them, and our tradespeople and construction industry is there, and then they fall away because of oversupply or lack of strong fundamentals. Is it incumbent on a council to be aware of that and mitigating the potential harm to the current economy, or is the appropriate approach just to let the market look after itself? And it will. I think we need to think about that as we go forward, because I think the flurry of first readings we're getting tonight will probably continue over the next few months. And we want to make sure that we have the appropriate duty of care, but also I think most people that are elected here have fairly laissez-faire local, they're not heavy-handed government interventionists. They're mostly people who think the market should play itself. And but we want to be careful about that. And we also want to know in our own minds that not everything that's brought before us is going to go forward, or can, given the way the economy works. So that's 98 units tonight. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, it's good to remind those that are looking at all this coming forward that has been some DCC discussion, and there may be some changes, and this council's made a commitment to bring forward those changes. The good thing is, as we move forward with some of these proposals, that we have a fairly, although some have suggested there needs to be some revisions, we have a fairly good, robust, well thought out OCP. And so number of these have to meet those criteria, or they have to go through a process of trying to rationalize to council and the community that there needs to be an amendment made to the OCP. So there's lots of things that will govern how these projects come forward.
Well, we're looking at the screen at a site that was R1 a couple of months ago and is now something else. We do have two recommendations, and we should restructure the motions so that they're not committee recommending to council, but in fact, motions of council that zoning amendment bylaw number 25277 go to be read for first reading and referral, and that the following conditions be met prior to adoption of zoning amendment. So with the corrections in that, so that it's a motion of council and not from committee, we have somebody to move. Councillor Seegers, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Thank you. Recently, we've attended a number of housing sessions indicating that there's a shortage of housing on the coast. So yes, some of these are coming forward. Is it Silverstone? All the lots are now sold. Lots are being sold all over the coast. Builders right now, if you want a builder, they won't look at your plans or your lot for 6 months. And then they'll start building in about a year and a half. So there is a shortage of both lots and housing. So I think these will be taken up very quickly, and the price will be determined by the market. So if they come in at a price that the community can afford, they'll sell. But one of the things that was asked was, could they be, or is it going to be strata, or are they going to be for sale? Inside that strata, they could still be rental units. Yes. So people could buy them as investment units with people renting them out. So one doesn't negate the other. Okay, thanks.
Depending on the strata council rules, yes. And whether you purchase, yes. It doesn't negate it in advance. And Councillor Lutz?
I believe that was me next.
Neely,
I wanted to offer perhaps a different perspective. I do work in the building industry. I'm a journeyman carpenter, and over the past 3 to 4 years, you have not been able to hire a journeyman carpenter on the Sunshine Coast. This particular area, and is in response to comments to what the mayor has made. The housing industry on the coast goes through fits of overheating, and that's something in Canada, as economists, nobody talks about. They don't talk about the damage associated with overheating. And I think at last, there was about 2 years ago, an article on the front page of the province talked about BC being short something in the order of 15,000 carpenters. It was the second highest shortage. And this is one of those things where, you know, I would like to do, as you said, and present this orderly rollout, except for the fact that at a provincial and federal level, they haven't been able to address this. We have overheating in so many areas of economy, it's somewhat laughable. So I look at this and I say, what's going to happen? Well, the costs of construction will go through the roof, and that's basically what we're going to have to deal with, and the market will sort it out. That's all we're left with. Without coordination between all the governments, that's all we're left with.
Yeah, those are very interesting and comments which actually add very much to the discussion. So we can't get houses built because of shortage of labor. Pricing is going up. I don't think it negates the overall discussion that there's something coming. We hope it's orderly. Councillor Lutz, and affordable.
Yes, affordable. I want to speak to the issue of the workers we'll need to build just these 98 units. Where are they going to stay? Because they're all going to have to come from off coast, and there's no rentals. So how do we deal with that? Do we put up a construction camp so that our community can continue to grow? Or do we try and import people and squeeze them in to inadequate living conditions? I mean, which comes first? I don't know. It is a big issue. For me, these recommendations are really important, especially the one around the tree protection. I think if any of these fall away, we don't want to have moonscapes out there. So I'm really glad to see that in this recommendation.
Thank you. And I think between those two comments, it may in fact be there are natural limits, and the size of our construction industry and who can do the work will put natural limits on what's going on. So we do have two motions, one for first reading and one for the tree protection plan. Do I have somebody to move both of those? Councillor Lutz, Councillor Seegers, all those in favor? Thank you. And that does move us also to the bylaw, which is page 71. Bylaw number 25-277, 2016, the Clayton Family Lands Limited. A bylaw to amend District of Sechelt zoning bylaw number 25, 1987 by rezoning a portion of District Lot 1385, 1,385 from RR1 to R1. And this is moved for first reading by Councillor Seegers and seconded by Councillor Wright. All those in favor of first reading? Any opposed? And that's carried. You have one more. We've no new business under item 9. Under item 10, business items, we've done 10.1, which is the Sunshine Coast Community Forest. That brings us to 10.2, which is page 79. First, a motion to receive the report. Councillor Shanks and Inkster. All those in favor? That's carried. And Mr. Thompson, your fourth report of the evening.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is a brief report regarding the Coast Road Arts Festival. As many of you remember, that on August 3rd, Council passed a motion to grant a temporary use permit for this festival. As that property is located on agricultural land reserve land, that they also need to apply for a non-farm use permit. So they have applied through the ALC, and it has come to us as a local government. And so this report is essentially forwarding that application onto the ALC with council support, and that is what we are recommending based on the previous support given to the temporary use permit.
Not to contradict ourselves.
Yes.
Councillor Seegers.
I'll move recommendation number 2.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Wright. Any discussion of the recommendation tonight? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to excuse myself.
And the first recused this evening under conflict of interest. Councillor Inkster will recuse himself. And given that we don't have the wall, and here you're going to have to either go upstairs or downstairs or out in your car. No, don't go too far. Okay, 10.3, Lighthouse Pub Liquor License Amendment. Thank you, and seconded by Councillor Seegers. All those in favor? Report number 5.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, a quick report. We have received a application from the Liquor Licensing and Control Board, an application for the Lighthouse Pub requesting that their hours of operation be extended. They've requested that they extend their hours by 2 hours earlier in the day, starting to begin operations at 9 o'clock. However, our business license bylaw states that liquor establishments shall not open prior to 10 a.m. So it is recommended that we deny the request to open at 9 a.m. and instead recommend that they open at 10 a.m. To the Liquor Control Board, that is.
It begs the question of whether we discuss that with the applicant.
Yes, the applicant is aware.
Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. I notice in here it talks about hours. Is that opening hours or hours of liquor sales, and do they have to be the same?
It's hours of operation, and though I'm not fully familiar with all the regulations of the Liquor Control Board, they want to operate earlier so they have their license open so that it would essentially normal operation.
So I'm just looking for some clarity around, is it, I mean, could they open the doors at 9 but not start selling liquor till 10? Or is it our business license that says they cannot open their doors until 10? And that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Being-
The liquor, it's out for liquor establishments can't open at 10. I'm not quite sure about the subtleties of the language of the bylaw. Trying to look at that if it's liquor operations or liquor establishment hours of operation. There's just that subtle distinction.
It actually doesn't seem to be either. It seems that every business license for premises licensed under the liquor control, no liquor shall be sold or served to patrons between the hours of 10 a.m. and 10. Doesn't matter when they can be open 24 hours, according to that, but they can't serve liquor. So, but the application is to extend the hours of service for alcohol consumption?
Yes.
Or does this need to be? Yeah, that's what they're actually asking for. Councillor Mueller?
Yeah, I had a similar question. And just to note, I am familiar with a number of establishments, not here though, that open early but don't sell liquor until certain times of the day. So that is definitely something to consider. But I was curious about the stores that we have in Seashell that just sell liquor, like the liquor store or the cold beer and wines. Are they also bound by this 10 a.m. rule?
I don't, as it's serving to patrons, I don't believe sales count as serving, sorry.
Yeah, the key is consumption on
Yeah.
the premises.
Yeah.
Consumption. So if they're sold for off sales, then they don't conform to this.
Okay, so I think the purpose of my question then was to say if we do have establishments in Seashell selling from a store, even though it's not poured in a glass, it's congruent, and it begs the question whether or not we want to be right across the board congruent.
So for the sale of liquor for consumption on the premises or consumption on the parking lot, we should be congruent. Interesting note. The first item that was raised by Councillor Seegers, I mean, if they want to open their restaurant portions for breakfasts and start serving the flight planes and things like at 7 or 8 or 9 and not serve alcohol till whatever time, that needs to be clarified because it's not the hours of operation that we're concerned with. It's the hours conforming to the current business practice license. And Councillor Mueller saying perhaps we should amend the business license bylaw. That's a fair comment. But currently, to conform to it, it would be consumption can't start before 10 a.m. So we would support staff recommendation for that. But there's lots of subtleties we're not sure of. So I see the Director of Planning first and then Councillor Lutz.
Your Worship, just to clarify, this is a referral from the Liquor Control and Licensing Branch. So the only questions they're asking is regarding the sales of alcohol.
Good clarification, thanks. And in the District of Seashell, the current bylaw suggests 10 a.m. And so the extension would be from 11 a.m. to 10 a.m. to allow for a longer day. Councillor Lutz.
Is the Lighthouse and Buccaneers on the same liquor license, or are they two separate? And could it be dealt with that way, that the one side, Buccaneers, could open early for breakfast, but not the Lighthouse pub?
I don't know about the status of the various liquor licenses.
Well, it says the pub and its application
Yeah.
for an extension to open the pub at 9.
Your Worship, and we're not quite sure whether they have the same liquor license or whether they have separate liquor licenses. So that's the other, they might be a single entity as far as the liquor license is concerned.
Okay. How would council like to deal with this? Councillor Seegers.
I'm willing to make a motion here, but I'd like the wording to be slightly different. so that we can be clear about what we're approving. So that council received notice of the application to extend the hours of Lighthouse Pub from 11 a.m. to 9 a.m. for service of alcohol. The council has considered the potential for noise if the application is approved and the impact on the community if the application is approved. The council recommends against the application to modify the Lighthouse Pub's hours of operation to serve alcohol to begin operations at 9 a.m. The council recommends the Liquor Control and Licensing Board modifying Lighthouse Pub's hours of operation to serve alcohol to begin operations at 10 a.m. to be consistent with the district's business license bylaw. And that's because I don't care if they open at 6 o'clock and serve breakfast, but they cannot serve alcohol before 10.
We support the consistency with the bylaw until we change the bylaw, and Councillor Mueller wants us to look at that, so that's fair game. Thank you. I appreciate that motion put forward by Councillor Seegers, seconded by Councillor Lutz. Any further discussion? Councillor Mueller.
I had a clarification. The way I heard that read was that number 4 recommends the application to modify Lighthouse Pub hour of operations to begin selling liquor to serve alcohol at 9? Number 4?
Against, that one is an
Okay,
against. Yeah.
right.
First one is an against, and then it was a recommendation in the positive. And the wording of the first two to extend the hours from 9 to 11 probably should be reversed, but for grammatical clarity. But we know what we're trying to do. 10 o'clock start. Council's clear on it? All those in favor? That's carried, and we can bring Mr. Inkster back if somebody would give him a heads up from wherever he went. Councillor Inkster? Moving on to item 10.4 with the development variance permit application. Motion to receive. Councillors Wright and Seegers, all those in favor? That's carried. We either need more people in the planning department so you can share the load, or you have to ask your director to do some work. Thank you, Councillor Inkster. We're about to hear the report from Development Planner Thompson on the Dobrowski Development Variance Permit.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, I have another small presentation related to this development variance permit application. So this is a development variance for a single-family property in Sandy Hook. The variance is to increase the maximum height. As I flip through a lot of these slides. So yes, here you can see the property located in Sandy Hook off Porpoise Drive, right here. So the property is currently zoned R1 with OCB designation of low density residential. So, and it is a conforming property. And the proposal is that increase the maximum building height from 10.5 meters to 16.7 meters to allow for an addition to a single family residence. So the property is approximately a 60% grade. So the current way that we have measuring height in the zoning bylaw measures from the lowest point to the highest point for single family residence. So when we currently measure, we look at this lowest point, so right here, and then we'll be looking at the highest point. So that's where we get the 16.73 meters from. However, in the OCP, it talks about moving towards a different way of measuring height, and we're hoping to include that in future zoning bylaw amendments. And we're looking at measuring height instead. In this case, what we've done is shown what the height would be if you took it from a plane parallel to the average grade. So you see this diagonal line here shows what the 10.5 build height would look like if you took a plane from the average grade. So that although it is quite a significant height increase on paper, in practicality, it is less of a significant increase as it is going with the slope. Here are some pictures from the property. So this is standing at the property line, looking towards where the house would be. As you can see, you can't see the house. When you move onto the property, you're then able to get closer and see where the planned addition is. So the planned addition would be approximately right around here or up here, depending on which photo you're looking at. And based on how secluded the property is, the the alternatives of measuring height is recommended that council approve this variance to increase the height from 10.5 meters to 16.7 meters.
Thank you for that. I thought we moved the average height 15 years ago. Obviously not.
No. We have different measurements for both single family and then all other kinds of
Yeah, no, it
developments.
was for single family I was thinking of. Councillor Inkster.
Thank you. Aaron, if you go back to the pictures that you've shown us and you show us how high the building will be in the picture that not that one, the actual pictures of the land with the trees. So you're going ahead there we go. Go ahead. So you're going to show me, if you can, how high it is within those trees?
It's kind of hard to show with a laser pointer on here, but it would probably rise to maybe approximately there on the roof line. So it's kind of going back a bit from this house and a little bit above it as well.
Okay, so then on the picture above it, then it would be how high in there then?
Maybe it's hard to say, but maybe from this angle it would just appear another corner here.
Okay. And those trees that are around it are the trees owned by the same people they're probably going to make sure that their house continues to be secluded and trees will be around their addition.
Yeah, it is quite a large, more rural property. There's quite a significance from the road right the way down. So this is standing near the property line, and you can see how far it is to that kind of crest of the slope. Yeah. And then standing on that crest of the slope is approximately where we were when we took this photo. So you can see it's still quite a ways away from the property line.
And the trees around it will be making it so it's quite private on each side
yes,
as well.
It is, of course, as a 60% grade in a development permit area. So if this development variance permit goes through, there'll also be a development permit. And removing trees on that kind of slope is typically not a good idea.
And Councillor Wright.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. On page 119, in the middle of the page, it says that the applicant applied to the Board of Variance and that it was not approved by the Board of Variance. Do we know why?
Yes, it was considered not a hardship, and the Board of Variance only looks at hardship.
So the Board of Variance didn't actually have the authority, is what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Those are changes too over the lifetime. Councillor Mueller.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. My question is about the nature of this application to be in a steep slope area. I'm just curious if we've gone through all the steps to assure, as new building occurs on a steep slope, that the slope is actually integral and suitable for such a construction.
We have a geotechnical report that, of course, comes with recommendations to be able to do this development. But prior to us being able to issue a development permit or go into a more in-depth thing, we need to, of course, bring the issue towards council if you are willing to allow for this height increase. but the geotechnical report has been completed and has the recommendations needed to support this development.
And Councillor Wright?
Thank you, Your Worship. I understand the circumstances of this particular applicant, but when you ask for a variance from 10.5 meters to 16.7, that's a 60% increase in height. To me, that's a pretty significant variance. And I just get a little bit nervous because despite the circumstances, the next person who comes down the road and says, I want a variance to make my house 16.7 meters high, the circumstances obviously will be different, but how do you turn them down? And I get nervous that we're setting a different standard. And just a caution for us, it becomes a slippery slope. Once you approve this kind of a variance, and it's a huge variance, it makes me think very carefully about that.
Will you respond to that, or should we? We'll turn them down because the average height will be more than 10.5 meters over the average slope. So I think we'll turn them down. Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. In our new zoning bylaw that's in process, it would be following this 10.5 guideline, would it not? So anybody who would be coming forward with a proposal, it wouldn't even come to us because we wouldn't need a variance.
Yes, if we were looking at changing the way we measure heights.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think we did in practice, but obviously we didn't adjust the bylaws. Thank you. Seconded by? Yep. Was it just the typo in single, or? I think the one on paper and with the agenda is more complete. So we'll go with that one. It's actually, yes. So the motion is council approves development variance permit 2016-03 for lot 17, district lot 6907, plan 10578, for a variance to zoning bylaw number 25/1987 to increase the maximum height of a single-family dwelling to 16.7 meters, subject to the provision of the statutory notice to neighboring property owners. That was moved by Councillor Lutz and seconded by Councillor Seegers. All those in favor? That's carried. And do you need anything more? No, you can just use that motion and sign the back page there. Lower Derby Road, item 10.5, a report from the Director of Engineering and Operations, moved receipt by Councillor Seegers and Shanks. All those in favor? Ms. Hoagland. Oh.
Thank you, Your Worship. On August 3rd, 2016, regular council meeting, council resolved that staff prepare a report considering a traffic calming solution for Lower Derby and Bly roads. That report is in front of you. Engineering staff have completed a site visit and recommend increased signage on Lower Derby Road. A map of the recommended signage locations is included. The proposed signage will be far more visible than the current signage is. The district's traffic calming policy does not specify type or location parameters for traffic calming measures. As a general rule, district staff do not recommend speed humps or bumps on collector or arterial roads, and Derby Road is designated as a collector road. Therefore, the recommendation is that staff oversee the immediate installation of increased signage on Lower Derby Road, as opposed to installing speed humps or bumps.
Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, I just had a question in terms of what the signage might read, and I had a couple of recommendations that maybe already incorporate in terms of, being used only for local traffic and perhaps trucks over a certain weight not be permitted?
Currently, the proposed signage is caution children at play throughout, 30 kilometer per hour signs, and slow in very large.
So one of their concerns was heavy trucks, but I'd note that it's actually designated as a collector road.
It is designated
Which
as a collector road, correct?
Means we pretty much have to allow it to be a collector road.
Correct.
Maybe we should start letting people know when they live on collector roads. Interesting, because it's small. It doesn't appear to be one of those roads.
There are a number of collector roads throughout the district that do not appear at face value to be a collector road and are deemed as such. For example, Seashell to Inlet Road in Tawanik is also a collector road, but it looks very much like a local road.
Any further discussion? Councillor Mueller and then Councillor Inkster, and we may go back to Councillor Shanks as he mulls over this.
Yes, thank you, Worship. I just wanted to be clear. So right now we have a 30-kilometer zone on that road. However, it's not a playground area. It's not. So would that then be a change to the traffic fines associated if we add the children that play throughout?
With regard to traffic fines, it's still a 30 kilometer an hour zone, so I am uncertain whether the RCMP have a different method for collecting fines in that area, but it would still be a speed zone of 30 kilometers per hour, regardless of whether or not it's actually in a play area or not.
Okay, that's something that I would like to know, just because we're talking about increasing the awareness in some way, and I think dollar values tend to speak to drivers.
I know there's differential fines in school zones, so there are around playgrounds as well?
That's what I'm curious about. I don't know.
Because if we're creating a children at play zone that actually has higher, I have no idea, I've never
I don't know.
traffic fine. Okay. Might be useful background as we go forward, and then Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, I wonder too, if in fact there's a differential fine structure, we may know in reference to some of our parks and whether that kicks in with some of our parks. There is a park fairly close by, about a block and a half away from this, so with the 30 kilometer zone and the signage of kids at play. So that would be interesting, but did we not, we've received complaints on Upper Mason about traffic issues, and in this one, did we, as part of the discussion, and because I was there just as it ended, and the recommendations come forward, are we going to let the RCMP know that there's been concerns expressed regarding traffic on these streets? Is that part of our approach, or?
We can definitely bring it up with the RCMP. It was my understanding from the delegation that they had already brought this forward to the RCMP.
Okay, I can't recall with what result. Do we know?
With not enough result. Enough that they came to us to
given
add
that we
more.
had a delegation that came after that discussion had taken place, I would assume that perhaps they would like, they definitely wanted further measures than asking the RCMP to step up. Hence the report and the delegation to council.
Okay, so we're putting in signs. It's a constant reminder. The RCMP is very busy, but they do go into neighborhoods every once in a while to monitor traffic. Will that happen, or will we request that, or just wondering what?
Well, we don't usually indicate the operational duties of the RCMP for a number of reasons. And we don't really want to live in a community where the mayor and council do direct the operations of the RCMP, even on traffic issues or drug offenses or other common issues, for a number of reasons. So I don't think we'll do more than what we've done now to draw it to our attention, but I hope the neighbors, once the signs are in, would do that. That's appropriate for them.
And for clarification, the signs will be larger. They will be far more prominent than they currently are. The current signs are small and state 30 kilometers an hour. They will be more visible.
Okay. Any further discussion? Councillor Shanks?
No, I just want to get the heavy traffic off the
Yeah,
road.
I know.
in
I'm not sure how we do
some way,
that.
shape, or form. If it's a collector, that sort of makes that difficult.
Yeah. Hopefully, if they see larger signs making it more clearly a residential neighborhood with children and larger speed signs, it'll be enough to move people away from using it. Adversely, we have traffic. It's not going to be the only one we see. It's starting to be an issue in Sechelt for a number of reasons, and probably because of the substandard roads in higher density areas now. So we have a recommendation that actually uses the word immediate installation. I've increased, so maybe we do some things quick. I have somebody to move that. Councillor Lutz, Councillor Inkster, Wright, and Seegers already in favor. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And now we move to another item which may have a conflict. Two recusers. And we'll try and do this quickly. We have a memorandum from the communications manager, motion to receive. Councillor Seegers and Lutz, all those in favor. And Ms. Jordison, would you like to speak to it? Yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. You will note there is no recommendation on this memorandum. I'm simply presenting information. There's not a lot to guide a recommendation here that exists with this particular issue. I did consult a number of other local governments through Civic Info. No one had a situation quite like this. In most cases, other local governments, when I spoke to them about memorabilia from sports groups, they said, oh yes, we accept it, but we send it to our museum or our archives. And of course, we don't have that option in the District of Sechelt. The trophy case in question has been with the district for almost 20 years. In my memory, we don't have documentation as to when it actually arrived, but let's give it at least 20 years because that's how long I've been here and I've known it's been there. In 2014, Council did authorize a budget for renovation of the office. In doing that, they did approve concepts for the office design, and those did not include the trophy case in the foyer design. Therefore, when the work was being conducted, the coasters were contacted and their case was removed to allow for the renovations. Subsequent to the renovations being completed, the coasters contacted council and asked that the trophy case be returned. The only item that, from a staff perspective, I would like to bring forward is that it does set a precedent. Having one community group being allowed to have memorabilia on display opens the door to other display items being offered up, and we would not then be in the position to reject them. We do want to keep the front office for the purpose of conducting business for our residents. And that's the information that I would present forward to council for a decision on the future of the cabinet and whether or not it returns to the office foyer.
Thank you, and I think you came very diplomatically, not wanting to take sides with council members, but the recommendation really is in the third paragraph from the bottom, allowing a group the privilege of display space does set a precedent, and the district serves, if the district serves as a display area for one community group, we will need to consider and honor requests from all groups. And we actually, with the renovation, no longer display municipal memorabilia, for example. I would recommend that despite the fact that two council members are directly related to this car club, that might even be a stronger reason, but I would recommend that we actually say no to this situation with regret. Councillor Mueller.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with the general sentiment of this letter and that there really is no space up there. The one thing that we do have up there is the changing display of pictures. Maybe that's, if we wanted to include some mention of the car club, they do put on fantastic events, to include a picture at some point because those pictures are rotating. However, this particular case, I wonder if maybe that should be returned to the car club. In the places that they meet, they can have it there. Seems like it is their property and it should be returned to them if we're not going to display it.
Yeah. They meet at the Davis Bay Community Hall. Isn't room there either. But Councillor Seegers and then Councillor Inkster.
Thank you. On page 135, in the letter from the Coasters Car Club, they indicate that they would like it relocated, if possible, somewhere in the public area of the building. They don't actually say in the municipal space upstairs. So I wonder if we could maybe talk to the library, see if there's some place maybe in the public space down here that this could go in, and then if so, great. If not, that could come back to us, and then I would agree with Councillor Mueller that we just request they take it.
So we do a bit of work on the way to see if, for example, that wall behind us could be used. Yeah. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, that approach would be interesting to see if anything down in front of us, because I know the library, we know why they've come to us more recently, is they're looking for more space and or better use made of their space. So that would be an interesting conversation. I just wanted to ask a couple questions in reference to the report that is in front of us from Connie. Do we know if anybody else has asked us in the last number of years for use of our office space for anything else? What happens is we get worried about precedent, but what we need to also consider is his history. Have other people in the last 19 or 20 years asked us for that space to display a similar unit? And in asking that, I just wanted to also ask, if we look at the picture that was provided, and thanks for that, I'm not really one that was too happy with what has occurred up there, but it's done, and we've been told to move on. But here's another example where the disappointment pops up. The right-hand side, when you go in the door there, how long is that there? That table and chair that was originally part of the design that I've never seen. Can't really recall anybody ever using that area. Do we know how long that is or how wide that is? Is it 6 feet or? And if it's on this picture, then that picture on the lower right-hand side, do we know how, yeah, right there, do we know how long that is in there? Right where the hand is, so coming back to the doorway there from the hand. Do we know?
I don't know exactly, but that is our service kiosk. Members of the public can go there and go onto our website, download forms that they might need or information that they might need, and then basically turn right around and hand it in at the front desk. It's quite a convenient item. Mm-hmm. I believe it's about 3.5 feet in length there. It's not, I don't think it would be quite long enough for the Coasters Car Club display. As for your question about other requests, we haven't had requests from sporting groups for trophies or memorabilia, but we often get art requests for pieces of artwork that individuals wish to donate to the district. And in those cases, we've had to refuse those donations because we simply do not have space to display them properly. And the offers are made on the premise that items would be displayed. I don't have exact numbers of requests that there have been, but I know that Siobhan's dealt with a number of them.
Okay. Thanks, Connie, for that. I guess I'm probably in the minority in trying to find solution that would put it near to where it used to be, just based on the historical representation and growth of that particular event in Seashelt. And I think we're still a small town in a sense, and I'd like to recognize those groups for the work they do, volunteer and otherwise, in our small town. So I guess I'm in the minority, but I'll leave it at that.
I think Councillor Seegers was trying to find solutions as well. We're no longer in the village. Yes, Councillor Lutz. And it actually was displayed originally in the former municipal halls. And it was put in before this building was, and then moved over. But the Arts Council has a wall and a showcase in the mall, which they talked and requested from one of the board members, Anna Banana, arranged that. And it is more public than upstairs.
The car club brings a lot of tourists, and I'm wondering if there would be room in the information center.
I think following on Councillor Seeger's suggestion, we can canvass any of our public spaces, including Rockwood, and see if there's a spot that would be more public for them. But in the end, it's work they should be doing. And in the end, I think we need to resolve this by recognizing that they're one of many, many groups on the Sunshine Coast. And it was, and we may want to delve into the history of how it got into the municipal halls, and others didn't. Councillor Seegers.
So perhaps we could make a motion that our arts coordinator, Siobhan Smith, being familiar with the public spaces and display, look to see if there's a place that would be suitable for this and bring something back to council, either with some options or that we don't have a space.
And, or with a recommendation, if we do not have a space, that it be returned to the Coast Car Club. And seconded, Councillor Mueller. Thank you, Councillor Lutz. Any further discussion? So we will help to look for a space. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. At least they'll know it was a difficult decision. Could we look, give Connie oh, it did? Okay, good. Went to get them. And just so you don't have to wait for the minutes, it was obviously a difficult decision. It took us quite a while. And as usual, we didn't quite make it. We decided to try and help look for a public space in the building. And if we can find one with a recommendation and help of our cultural coordinator who knows the public spaces, we'll look for that. And if we can't find one after that search, we'll have to return it to the Coast Car Club. And some suggestions were this foyer, some suggestions were the Seaside Center and the Tourist Information Center, and other public spaces we may have access to. And moving then to item 11, councillors' reports. And I'll start, if I may, with Councillor Lutz, Deputy Mayor.
It's been a busy month with a lot of community gatherings. Some coastal type meetings. I have had meetings with constituents over the summer. I also had the great fun of my son's wedding and the Sunshine Coast Labor Council's Labor Day picnic, and had a fairly lengthy interview with a reporter from the Globe and Mail around our housing issues. And after quite a long discussion, I see in the paper that it was whittled down to about one sentence, but that's the way it goes.
Thank you for that report. Councillor Shanks? Sorry.
Have to calm down for a moment.
We've got lots of time.
Okay, bear with me. Attended on August the 24th, the public hearing on the proposal for relaxation of setbacks on the Gaines property in West Porpoise Bay. Chaired and attended the planning meeting of August the 31st and also Public Works meeting on that same date. And yesterday I attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting and brought to their attention some accommodation issues that reared their head when we had our Sleepy Hollow Rod Run and Car Show. And they're to follow up on some of that information which I gave them. And just to let you know, the Sleepy Hollow Rod Run and Car Show was an extremely successful event that took place with 365 registrations, 450 odd cars on the Rod Run on the Friday night. And a conservative estimate done by a few of us is that that 2 or 3 day event probably brought $100,000 to $125,000 into the community in terms of people staying at B&Bs and motel accommodations and meals, etc. So we're looking forward once again to putting on a good show. We have some issues that we have to address, and we will be contacting the RCMP in terms of the burnouts that were occurring, that we've been fortunate over the last few years that they didn't occur with the frequencies that they occurred this year. And I'd probably like to see bringing forward a recommendation at a future meeting, because there was public damage to our colorful crosswalk at Cowrie and Inlet. We do have some information on who actually did the damage, and there is a report that came into the car club, which the RCMP know the car involved. And I'm just wondering if potentially we could look at charging the individual with damage to public property if we got the cooperation of the RCMP in getting that information. So that's my report.
That would send a serious message. Thank you for that report. And Councillor Inkster.
Thank you. It has been quite a busy month away from council in August since the last number of meetings, although there was one last week that I was unable to attend. The Rod Run, as mentioned in the show and shine, was another great success, and I'm glad Councillor Shanks did bring out the burnouts, because I did notice a couple of them occur and was surprised to see them at the bottom of Mills Road, and that was a little unfortunate. There's a lot of black acrid smoke that goes with that. The other thing that's noted with the Rod Run that occurs is the numbers of people that's increased that gather along the highway. And Mills Road, as an example, that was just referred to, I know Councillor Wright was also there. I would say there was, in that one area at that Mills Road highway, probably 100 people that had set up, and there's people even that had set up dinner and dessert at the bottom of that road. So that was, I guess, couches came out in some cases, or big chairs, and just to see the amount of people that make that a big event with food right at the roadside to enjoy the event coming by. So that's those are the kinds of community events that you don't necessarily measure nor see, but it says a lot about your community when they all gather together in groups along the roadside, sometimes 50 to 60 in this case, in this one spot. That says a lot about our community to come out to do that. I just wanted to mention other than the festivals we see here, because we do see a lot throughout the summer, I decided to do some reconnaissance and look at a festival that's new-ish in Paul River called the Blackberry Festival, in order to see why that's such a big deal now, and the fact that they closed down Marine Avenue, which is twice as long as Cowrie, in order to host this event. And one thing I did notice that's a little different from our event, because you try to see what's different, is the numbers of food vendors that were located along that avenue for that event. And of course, did I say blueberry or blackberry? Oh, good. Blackberry was the theme, and that included blackberry drinks, blackberry pies, and meals that had blackberries in. And I just think that it was good that they included that. But I would say there was, what's different from what I've seen on Sunshine Coast, is there was probably 30 to 45 food vendors. Some were raising money, some were doing it as part of their business, some were promoting their business. And I will also mention at that festival, after that festival, they have a fireworks display. And it was put on with music very similar to ours, but not by live music. It was done by music at the Park Wellington there, in which the local supermarket put it on, QFC, I think it's called, or Quality Foods. And I think they spent $45,000 on the fireworks and music for that event. And there was thousands of people ringing it, and the kids just loved the accompaniment of both, and the length of the fireworks. You could tell there's a lot of money put into it. So that was interesting, because you're not expecting it, nor asking that all corporate sponsors do that. But to see this group, this particular store, step up and do that in a town not much larger than ours, I think that's their major sponsored event this year. But the funny thing I will tell as I end is I was in Quality Foods the next day, and mother came up to ask for something for their school, a donation, and the manager was asked to come up and speak to her, and I was standing, just happened to be standing there, and I heard him say, I can do it in kind, but I don't have any more money. I spent it on the fireworks last night. And that's when he told her and others around how much money he spent on it. So right the very next day, he was asked for a donation for a school event and had to tell her that he couldn't because of the amount of money spent on the fireworks. But good on them to put all their things. I think there was a boat out there with QFC all over it. And it was just good to see the corporate sponsorship step up in that case, and the numbers of food vendors. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. Attended an SCRD board meeting over the summer. Finance Committee for the District of Sechelt, the public hearing, town hall meeting, Public Works, Planning and Development. Went to the Paddle Festival, Seniors Planning Table meeting, Labor Council picnic, and went to the Bethel Baptist barbecue on this Saturday afternoon, and actually went to the service on Saturday night. Left the service and my wife and I went dancing, so that's okay. Lastly, Councillor Shanks talked a little bit about the Sleepy Hollow Rod Run. And I'm not going to bore you with the Sleepy Hollow Rod Run, other than to tell you that it was Councillor Shanks who is the chair of the Sleepy Hollow Committee. And what that basically means is Councillor Shanks pulls together all of the pieces and all of the volunteers that put that whole weekend on. And he's too modest to tell you that. So hat off to Councillor Shanks. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent job. Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. I'm only going to mention a few. It's getting late tonight. I attended the Connecting Self-Employed Women's Advisory Committee meeting. This is a group from the Community Resource Center that received a grant to look at how to connect self-employed women in the community. We were presented with a report on education and how the education industry, or the schools and college and everything else, supports self-employed women, and what is happening, what needs to be happening, other avenues they could look at. I attended the town hall meeting put on by our MLA on housing. Was written up very well in the paper. I also attended the meeting between the Seniors Planning Table and Pamela Goldsmith-Jones, as did Councillor Wright. And the Seniors Planning Table is looking to see if we could become a model for how the federal government could support seniors. And because we have a contained community, they're saying we could be like a test case for some implementations. So she's taking that away to see what she can do to facilitate that. Today I attended the Sunshine Coast Homelessness Advisory Committee meeting. They're still looking for a space to open the shelter. The St. Hilda's is willing to be the space if we don't have anything else for October 1st, but that space is too small. So there are a number of avenues that are being explored, but nothing firmed up yet. And then from there, I went to the information session put on by the SCRD at the Ravens Cry with regards to asbestos exposure abatement and the new guidelines that are coming into effect September 19th at the landfill site with regards to disposal of products that have asbestos. One of the things that I learned there that I didn't know, they said that some of the older flooring that has asbestos in it can have up to 90% asbestos. So we might think sometimes it's a small amount. It really depends on the flooring. And one of the companies, there are two companies on the Sunshine Coast that deal with hazardous materials. And one of them said, call us before you do anything. Call us before you reno, before you rip anything out, because they actually showed some slides with lights. And when you take out the asbestos materials, you don't see it, but those little fibers go through the air. So you could take out a small piece and actually contaminate your whole house. So they're saying, please call us before you do anything. So it was an interesting afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Mueller.
Thank you, Your Worship. Over the summer, this past month, I was invited to introduce Ian McAllister and Lorna Crozier at the Sunshine Coast Festival of Written Arts. That was a great honor to welcome those people to Seashell. They've been doing fantastic work attempting to bring awareness to the conservation needs of the Great Bear Rainforest. So that was a highlight. I've attended a couple Oktoberfest planning meetings, and that is more as a volunteer than anything. I think you've heard some of the comments from other councillors about this is great success of the Rod Run, and I think anybody who went down to Cowrie on the Saturday or the Sunday would be able to tell you it was wall-to-wall people. That's just exactly a cookie-cutter, vibrant downtown. It's exactly what we're searching for in our strategic plan. I think you're going to see a lot more of that in the future, and it's very clear that Cowrie is the place to do it. In terms of Oktoberfest so far, we've got 5 breweries lined up. There are many vendors. There's going to be 2 full blocks of Cowrie from wharf to trail, and as well, it's happening on the last day of the farmers market, so it has that Oktoberfest theme to it, the German harvest theme. Additionally, we had some council meetings. Our work really never stops. There were some public hearings and a few closed meetings. Items related to the search for the CAO, which is the search itself is now public. I think one of the highlights for many of us was the town hall discussion hosted by David Eby and our own MLA Nick Simons. It was a great discussion. It was great to hear a lot of the perspectives from the public. I don't think any of the local government representatives spoke, even though they were there. So I was going to reserve my comments until we got to a place that was more amenable to it, which I think is now. I think when I heard that and what I heard from our MLA and the fact that we haven't received much in terms of correspondence on this issue is that I was really looking for more solutions. Housing interventions are known to be extremely difficult, and if you don't do them right, they turn out to be a disaster. It's the kind of thing that a local government just can't do on its own. We're going to be looking for dynamic cooperation between 3 levels of government to work towards a solution on this. And so far, we haven't heard much. So that was my takeaway. And I think everybody is aware now that this is a crisis. And hopefully we can all come together and do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you for those remarks, and thank you for ending on the affordability, or the actually overall housing market, and that was my takeaway too. There wasn't solutions there that evening, but there was good discussion that put us in that direction. And I'll want to pick up on one other remark that Councillor Mueller said. It seems that the work never stops. I didn't notice that we took a break in August, so apparently we had less meetings, fewer meetings, but whether it was the Festival of the Written Arts, which was a great success, and I had an opportunity to speak to them, or the Sleepy Hollow run the next weekend, through to the Bethel Baptist 60th anniversary, where I had a chance to speak at the service before Doug Wright went dancing, and the Labor Day picnic, where Councillor Lutz is the MC, as she has been. There's lots of public events, but there was also a lot of work here and around the district as well. So moving along, SCRD Board, Council Representative Report, is there? Not this one, good. Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, just want to make a final comment. Thank Councillor Inkster for his comments about the turnout for the Sleepy Hollow Rod Run. This year, for the first time, we were actually encouraging people to participate as groups and awarding them prizes. And that's why I think we had such an enormous turnout. But having said that, it brings about other issues. And we're very conscious of the fact that there was a lot of alcoholic beverages, so we say, on a public thoroughfare going through our municipality. So although we encourage the fun aspect of it, we don't want to be known as Vancouver, but there's consequences when that sort of thing happens, and I'm hopeful that Cart Club will try and address that in coming years.
Yeah, the engagement side of that was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But of course, when people party, they sometimes party too hard.
It's never too hard, is it?
At my age, it's too hard to party. 12.1. Sunshine Coast RCMP Detachment Monthly Crime Statistics. I'm sure none of us are on it. Received for information. Any comments on councillors this evening, or we'll just move that one along? It is late in the evening. We also have the Seashell Visitor Services Network statistics showing strong growth in tourism. Maybe a motion to receive both of those, Councillor Seegers and Councillor Lutz. All those in favor? For information. And council correspondence. We have quite an appendix this evening, and runs us through a whole lot of things that don't normally get on the appendix. So it gives the community and the council watchers an opportunity to see the wide range of correspondence that comes in, whether people are lobbying us, or whether they're thanking us, or whether they're just providing information about their projects. So any of those we'd like to pull out for examination. Councillor Inkster.
Just the second one that I noticed, I'm wondering if, in fact, I mean, that's some interesting information that they want to provide to us. And I looked through it, and I was wondering if they would, why they would come to us, why they wouldn't work with the chamber to come and speak to us on those issues.
I think we're already working on that, aren't we? Ms. Jordison. Yeah. I think we've accepted.
Well, I know that. I'm just wondering if, I noticed that you were. Is the chamber involved at all, or?
I'm not aware if the chamber has been, I'm sure they've been invited. I'm not aware if they were asked to coordinate or anything.
Okay.
Through your worship, if I could, for item 7, I'd like to note that there is a correction. That piece of correspondence did not come from Mr. Wilson. It came from, of course, the group that signed the petition. So I just wanted to have that noted.
Yes, thank you. And unfortunately, Mr. Wilson's left, but we did notice that there was a minor error picking up his name as a CC as opposed to the author. And it was the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver that actually wanted to work with the municipality. That was their initiative. And we agreed that it was good information that could be useful. And they had done a similar event in Gibsons. Anything else we'd like to, Councillor Mueller?
Number 18, letter dated from Cavan regarding the non-potable water filling station. We're still at stage 3, so I wonder if that's something we want to make actionable.
I think he was provided a response that indicated we used it at stage 4 as opposed to stage 3. And I've been speaking with Mr. Soji, who assures us we will not get past stage 3. We'll only be at stage 3. So in this case, this decision was not to actually provide that potable water at this stage. Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. There are a few letters in here with regards to water issues in Selma Park area. And I do know that this has come to us. We referred it to the regional district. I'd like our staff to follow up again on this. It seems we're not getting much response. So maybe if our staff follows up with the regional district, we can at least find out if something's been happening there so we can address the concerns of our residents. So that's one. The other one is the short-term vacation rentals, and I believe that has already been referred to staff at one of our previous meetings, has it?
I think it has.
I think, yes, it was in the minutes earlier indicating that we'd like staff, yes, thank you.
And we're working on that because it's tied into the affordable housing and housing availability issues. On the water, and it's just a long meeting, so I'm getting tired, but before I got to the meeting, over the last couple of days, I was actually hoping we would pick up on the water issues in an even stronger way, both through our SCRD representative, and I know at the board it's difficult to raise these, but it really does seem that the SCRD is losing the public battle, at least, on water. Whether their plan is working well, we got another letter through email today, which will show up next week's in correspondence on water. We're getting quite a few. And I think it's more than just staff. So I'm wondering if council should also address the SCRD to let their infrastructure committee know that we'd like them to be more proactive, especially on the leakage issues.
Yeah, I'll be back there tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll bring it up.
But I think staff contact, but maybe not just, but maybe council giving a resolution through you to take a really strong sense that we think the SCRD should be more proactive, especially on areas of leak where people are reporting leaks.
Yes.
And nothing's responding. So unless I hear objections from other council members, I think Councillor Seeger should feel she has full authority to really push that.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
And yes, staff level connections is also really important. The water issue has not improved, and we got through this summer, but we are at stage 3, and I don't think anybody's changed their habits. There was almost no education. Anything else in the vast correspondence? Councillor Lutz.
I think it's item 16, but it's pages 57 and 58.
On smoking? Would you like to use your microphone? That's good, thanks.
Yes, regarding the Canadian Cancer Society's request for us to endorse the recommendations around tobacco and vapor products. I think that I would like to see us support that.
How does that conform to our own smoking bylaw? Have we met those standards, or I know we're under revision. They're coming back to us. So the actual endorsement is on page 58, which would include prohibit smoking and vaping in outdoor public spaces. Full stop. With the exception of ceremonial use in cultural activities. Anyone wanting to second Councillor Lute's support? Councillor Seegers is willing to do that. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, thank you. There's actually a ton of stuff in this correspondence package. Some of it will come back, some of it under other places. I did meet with, there is one I notice on Lehigh Mine, Noise and Dust. I met this afternoon with Lehigh and 3 individuals in our community who have been leading the concerns there on noise. No resolution. Seeing no other correspondence, I'd look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Seegers, Councillor Inkster, all those in favor? Adjourned, 9:30 this evening. Thank you very much. And a few brief questions from press and community or comments on the business we did. Pam? Yes.
I was actually talking to them tonight, and they indicate streetlights. And I think it's time that we've changed our attitude towards what is necessary and what is just, somebody said we have to do it. If you put streetlights along the water, you're changing the whole circadian rhythm of, it attracts dogfish. And there'll be enough lights from the apartments to shine, and also the path should be maybe not soft, but maybe it doesn't have to be concrete or flat. And you can try and keep the edge the way it is, or we're gonna end up with another riprap wall to pass down onto the beach. Secondly, the place out on East Inlet Road, Seashell Inlet Road, the, what is it, the disposal.
Oh, yes. Direct disposal.
It seems to me that this is another instance of, they're already using the property for what they want to rezone to use it. I mean, has nobody ever gone out and said you can't do that? But now here we are, we're just gonna let them rezone it. Have you been out there and looked at that place? It's like a freaking garbage dump. It's ugly. I mean, I don't care if it's an industrial area. It's ugly. There's crap piled up everywhere. There's containers of just piles of them. It's just awful. And I think sometimes before you make your decisions, you should go have a look somewhere and say, well, not if you're gonna continue making it look like this. Maybe they wanna build offices, but whoever wants to live in those offices or do anything is gonna be looking at garbage around it. It's just horrible. Should maybe take a check and have a look-see.
Point taken, but I think your comment that the rezoning was put in place so they could build offices, which is an improvement on the site, is what we're trying to do.
Rezoning so they can conform, so that they can continue doing.
And conform, yeah.
But it is just, I don't know where they're gonna put offices.
Point,
When they do,
point,
who's gonna
yeah.
want to rent them?
Point taken. There's, yeah, it's going to be for their own. It's their own office building. Anything to the media? Perfectly clear and coherent? Yeah, I assume there'd be a sale of that. At least makes more sense to me than, and that's why they're moving the lot line up into that corner. Yeah, I think we should look at the use, and we don't care about the owners, but if the use and zoning works, then that's what we support. Okay, thank you very much. It's been actually not that long an evening, but relatively long day.